Final score, Florida 65, Houston 63. The Gators are national champions. They accomplished this on Monday despite getting 0 points in the first half from their star, Walter Clayton. They accomplished this despite trailing by 12 points with 15:26 remaining. They accomplished this by suffocating Houston late with a defense that held the Cougars to 0 field goals in the final 2:28 of the game. Florida's offense gets most of the attention, certainly throughout this NCAA tournament, but Florida's defense won this national championship game. Kyle Boone, thanks for staying up with me. Can you give me your thoughts on Florida's victory over Houston and the Gators becoming national champs for the third time in school history?
Yeah, good evening, GP. Glad to see you. And what a championship this was for Florida. The third largest comeback in NCAA tournament championship game history for the Gators. They were down by 12 points in the second half versus Houston, come back and win this game. And I thought it was a fitting finish, right? For Florida, the way that they advanced in this tournament consistently was by putting themselves, painting themselves into corners consistently late in games and finding ways to win. You go back to the second round. They beat UConn after trailing by 6 with under 9 minutes to play. They beat Texas Tech in the Elite Eight after trailing by 10 with under 5:30 to play. They were down 9 points to number 1 overall seed Auburn with 18:30 to play in the second half. And then down by 12 with under 16:30 to play in the second half versus Houston. They won all of those games. It was a worthy national championship for the Gators, and the way they did that, closing that out against a Houston team that, I honestly thought if any team could build a big lead and sustain it, it would be this Houston team. They just kind of crumbled late, and I think that you have to credit Florida's defense, the way that they closed this game. That it was a stunning finish. Florida wins at 65-63.
It was so weird in the sense that Florida flipped the game on Houston more or less the same way Houston flipped the game on Duke just 2 nights earlier, because there were points in both of these games, and honestly points in all 3 games at this Final Four, which is why this was the 22nd Final Four for me to attend in person. And this might have been the best in terms of quality of games. You get 3 every Final Four. How good can the 3 be collectively? I don't know that I've been to one where the 3 games were this good, this compelling, this dramatic, this awesome. I know this one, the national championship game, wasn't the prettiest. Again, final score 65-63. Nobody could hit a shot to open the game. It wasn't the prettiest, but it was obviously compelling. And I'm with you, and I said this earlier in the day, there was no scenario where somebody could win this national championship and we'd be like, yeah, I don't know about them. There were 4 great teams here, 4 elite teams here. And by the time we got to Monday night, as I said on the pregame show on CBS Sports Network, it doesn't matter who wins it. They will go down as one of the statistically greatest college basketball teams, college basketball national champions in modern history. And Florida is that. And I would have said that no matter how they did it, but doing it this way was just super impressive. They obviously weren't dead, but I can just tell you the truth. The way we at CBS Sports Network consume this game, we have to be on set immediately after the game. So we do not go inside the Alamo Dome. We watch it in a green room inside the convention center, and then we go out to our other green room closer to our set. We're all together. We're all watching it together for the most part. And there was a moment, just like there was a moment Saturday night, where we said, all right, we're done here. Looks like we're done here. Because when you're down 12 points to Houston, that's like being down 20 points to somebody else because of how great they are defensively and how slow they want to play and how slow they're going to typically make you play. So it felt like that 12-point deficit was down 20. So you're down what feels like 20, and Walter Clayton Jr. is giving you nothing. It felt like we might be done here. And then they just, same way Houston did with Duke the other night, hung around. And then it gets close, and now it's in striking distance, and now Houston can't, I was going to say score, but forget that. Maybe that's setting the bar too high. Can't get a shot. Final 4 possessions for the Houston Cougars. Turnover, 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 turnover. And I don't know if I don't know if you've heard this anywhere else yet, but I went and looked it up. In the first 38 minutes and 39 seconds of that basketball game, Houston only turned it over 5 times. 38 minutes and 39 seconds. 5 turnovers. That's it. In the final 121, 4 more. They nearly matched their turnovers for the first 38 minutes in the final 121. It's not all Houston being lost on offense or confused or offense or out of sorts on offense. A lot of it was Florida's defense. The closeout at the end where Sharp couldn't even get the shot off. Just excellent stuff. But I did think it was interesting that the way we will remember Florida's run will be Walter Clayton and points and offense. The way Florida becomes a national champion for the 3rd time, and for the first time under Todd Golden, who's now a national champion at the age of 39, youngest person to do that since Jim Valvano. The way all of that happened on this Monday night, that was defense.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a great point. The irony of Florida winning with defense for a team that was, one of the most fun and explosive offenses in college basketball this season. A very ironic way and a fitting way for Florida to go out. And Sampson, after the game, Kelvin Sampson, Houston's head coach, basically, talked a little bit about the final 4 possessions, 4 turnovers, 4 final possessions, and the final 81 seconds, and said, like, look, it's incomprehensible was the word he used, that Houston could not get a shot off, specifically in the last 2 possessions. And the way that game ended with Emmanuel Sharp going up for, a potential game-winning 3, and Clayton just closed out and suffocated him. He had no room to get a shot off, and he knew he throws a shot off, it's getting blocked likely. So he throws the ball down, and he knows he has the wherewithal to know that, if he goes and gets the ball, it's a travel. The game is over. It's a mad dash to get the ball, and the game ends that way. It's truly stunning. And, just to kind of highlight, as you mentioned, just the unlikelihood of Houston blowing this lead with 15:48 remaining in the second half. Houston led 42-30 going into a timeout. ESPN's win probability had Houston with a 93.9% chance to win this game. So a fitting way for the Final Four to end, because we had several comebacks on Saturday. Florida digs out of a 12-point second half deficit and wins this one in a true stunning, thrilling fashion.
Yeah, like if you're one of those people who really likes to preach, never give up, the game's never over, well, this was the Final Four for you, because all 3 winners trailed in the second half of all 3 games that were played here in the Alamo Dome. Walter Clayton Jr. was named the most outstanding player of the Final Four. No surprise there. He was terrific, broadly speaking, but buddy, he had a rough one in this one. 0 points in the first half, didn't score at all until he made 2 free throws with 14:57 left in the game. There was an 18-minute stretch within the game, like 18 basketball minutes, where he got 1 shot off in 18 basketball minutes. And so on set tonight, like Brent Stover, our host, at one point said, like, if I would have told you Houston would lose this game despite something, what would you have thought? I said, Stover, there's like a million of those. There's like a million of those. If you would have told me Walter Clayton Jr. scores 0 points in the first half, I would have said Houston's your national champion. If you would have told me that Houston would be up 12 points with roughly 15 to play, I would have said Houston's your national champion. Had you told me before the game, GP, Houston's going to take 16 more field goal attempts than Florida in the game, I said Houston's your national champion. But all of that is a credit to Florida. Obviously, they can win games being great offensively. I bet you Todd Golden loves that they won this game this way. You know what people said? You can't get in a Houston game with Houston. You get in a Houston game with Houston, you're going to have problems. You get into a Houston game with Houston, that ain't the way to win a national championship. I don't think they wanted to get into a Houston game with Houston, but they got into one. And then down the stretch, at least it's not just the last 2 minutes, but certainly in the last 2+ minutes, they out Houston in a Houston-type basketball game. And those are a bunch of combo words that I didn't expect to put together, but I think you get the point.
Yes, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. It makes no sense, but it makes a ton of sense. Absolutely. Just the way that Florida was able to keep hanging in this game. Just 2 days after, by the way, Houston was dead to rights versus Duke. They end up scoring 9. They go on a 9-0 run in the final 33 seconds of the second half of that game, end up beating Duke in truly one of the most stunning comebacks ever. And Duke was at one point up 14, I believe it was 12 points, could have been 14 points in the second half of the game. Duke looked like, they were advancing. Now in this game, Houston's up big. Florida just continues to fight. They had some really good defensive sequences down the stretch. And, I think it was even funnier that Clayton, not only 0 points in the first half on 0-4 shooting, Florida had a huge run in the second half when Clayton finally went to the bench. And, I think that was a credit to, and probably some evidence to how Houston's game plan was defensively. They were blitzing ball screens. They were taking the ball out of Clayton's hands and saying, hey, look, if you're going to win this game, Florida, you have to have someone else step up. And Will Richard was big in this game. I thought Alex Condon had some good moments and some terrible moments kind of mixed in. But, they just got just enough, and they were able to match Houston's physicality to get over the edge and just to hang tight till the very end with some huge defensive stops and an interesting battle down to the end that, it was a funny stat here that I'll throw out from the CBS Sports research team. Florida's largest lead in this game, GP, is just 2 points. Yeah. This is the first title game decided by 2 or fewer points since Butler Duke in 2010. Florida's largest lead was 2 points, and according to Jared Burson, who
of course, he invented research.
That's right. Second team ever to win a title without ever holding a 2-possession lead. First team to do that, Loyola Chicago in 1963. Just incredible.
Absolutely incredible. And you mentioned Will Richard, like in a game where nobody could make a shot, he was the dude that started making shots. He ended up 4 of 7 from 3. Florida only made 6 threes in the whole game, and he had 4 of them. And if you're wondering how they were able to win despite shooting that poorly, in part because Houston was just as bad. 6 of 25 from 3. The Cougars end up shooting just 24% from beyond the arc. And that's especially troubling if you're Kelvin Sampson, because this is not who you are. Mm-hmm. Your basketball team was known for its defense, but the offense was still top 10 in adjusted offensive efficiency, according to KenPom. And this was a team that is quite literally one of the best 3-point shooting teams in America.
The best, number 1.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Now it's number 3. Yes. Yeah. Coming into this game, number 1.
Coming into the game, number 1. Now it's down to 39.4% on the season. And I guess since the season's over, it's just going to stay there forever. But yes, they were the best in the country. They're still top 3 after a horrific performance. But they really did. Like, they picked and I hate it when people say that. So let me put that back in my mouth. And I hate it when people say that because that's going to get clipped and be bad. What I'm trying to say is, they didn't pick the bad night to have a bad shooting night. They didn't pick it. Florida made them do that, but it was the worst possible time to throw up a 6 of 25 from 3, particularly when you have spent this entire season being one of the greatest, if not the greatest, 3-point shooting teams in the country, at least according to percentage.
Yeah. And even the way in which this game ended up finishing, right? Like, Houston all season has done such a good job crashing the offensive glass. They're really, really good at generating second chance points. And, they really, that was not the difference in this game where I thought it would be. Houston had 10 second chance points in this game. Florida actually had 11. And Houston had 15 offensive rebounds to Florida's 8. But, Houston just had so many missed opportunities. And even after the game, Kelvin Sampson kind of alluded to this. He was asked a question about, this was the lowest number of assists in the game since I believe 2020. And he said, look, he kind of went on a Torian Prince rant where he's like, hey, look, here's how assists work. We had a lot of shots. We had a lot of opportunities down in the paint to score off passes that would have normally been makes for us, but we did not convert at the level that we needed to. And, it was a bad night to have a bad night. To your point, they had several chances in this game where, if they make a bucket here, if they miss a layup and convert at the rim here, this could be a totally different game. But that is not how it went. You have to credit Florida for the way that they pushed Houston in this game.
I thought Kelvin was really good post game, really good.
He's been good all week.
Yeah, and first off, he just is good. He's just an interesting man to talk to. I enjoy every conversation I've ever had with him, and just for him to frame it properly in his own head, because I think it's so easy. Certainly, this is what fans do. I've seen other coaches do it as well. It's so easy to just, you either win or you lose, and there's no nuance in it. You either passed or you failed, and there's nothing in the middle. And rather than just say we lost a national championship that was within our grasp and we let it slip away, or either they took it from us, one of the two, probably a little bit of both. But rather than just to focus on that, he was able to, and I think this is the right way to look at it, just sort of point out that there was a 40-minute basketball game. Florida took 53 shots. Houston took 69 shots. There was a lot of stuff in this game that happened, and they made one more play than we did. Mm-hmm. They finished with 2 more points than we had. I mean, it was, and I said this pregame. I was talking to, I guess, Wally Zerbiak just before tip-off, and he was really excited. Man, I can't wait. We were pumped to watch this game because we had 2 elite college basketball teams. And sometimes you go into a high-stakes game like this. It could be a national championship game in basketball. It could be a Game 7 of the World Series or NBA Finals. It could be a Super Bowl. I guess it could be anything. And you have 2 teams that are both within 1 win of a championship, but one is clearly better than the other. And so you start talking about how could this other team beat this other team? And it's well, they're going to need to this and that, and probably try to slow down something, but you have to come up with little ways to figure this out. And sort of where I was at before this game is Houston doesn't need to get lucky or play out of its mind or any of that stuff to beat Florida. Mm-hmm. It could just show up and beat Florida. Similarly, Florida doesn't have to get lucky or shoot well or whatever to beat Houston. They're good enough to just beat Houston. I didn't think anybody needed to play their A game to beat the other team. These were 2 basically evenly matched teams. I know Florida opened as a 1.5-point favorite and might have closed there. I don't know. But the last place I saw the number was a pick'em. Yeah. At some point, about an hour before tip-off, it was at a pick. I think I then saw it move to maybe Florida back to 1. But this was always going to be a coin flip situation that could theoretically come down to 1 shot or 1 stop. And that is quite literally what it came down to. With 10 seconds left in the game, it was a 2-point game, and the team down 2 had the ball with a chance to win. By definition, in that moment, it can go either way, and it went Florida's way because Florida made the big play at the end. But I like the way that Kelvin was able to sort of make sense of that. Mm-hmm. We didn't play our best game. I'm going to be sick about this. It stings. But in a 40-minute basketball game where a million things happen, it really just came down to one thing here or there.